Simmons is stepping out of the shadows. Here's your look at McFarlane Toys, Mortal Kombat 11, Shadow of Spawn. Al Simmons, once the U.S. government's greatest soldier and most effective assassin, was mercilessly executed by his own men. Resurrected from the ashes of his own grave and in flawed agreement with the powers of darkness, Simmons is reborn as a creature from the depths of hell, a hellspawn. Now he is thrust into the world of Mortal Kombat, where he'll fight for supremacy against all combatants. If anybody can show you the sights of hell, it's Al Simmons here. Before we get a closer look, though, at the Mortal Kombat 11 Shadow of Spawn, let's go ahead first and grab the tape measure. That's what I have in my hand right here. This will allow me to, of course, to tell you guys just how tall a figure will always be standing. And in the case of standing Spawn here, the figure is about 7 inches in height, or the figure is 18 centimeters tall. Marking now the second Spawn we've looked at here from Mortal Kombat 11. The first one, I'm going to slide this one over here and bring in the other Spawn that we've already had a look at here. Technically, I did look at this guy a couple of times. One with the, I believe, the axe, one included with the mace. This one just happens to be the one with the mace. Not that it really matters because they're all using the same mold and the color scheme wasn't really that much different from one figure to the other. Changes, though, definitely are noticeable here between the two figures. Not only have they smoothed out his skin, but his colors seem also a little bit more vibrant. If you are one excited to see a trading card to come include with Spawn, I hate to be the bearer of bad news. Spawn does not come include with a trading card. However, though, he still comes include with the same circular black stand, in this case with Mortal Kombat printed down below, and one single peg, as it always is, right at the top corner. This can attach to either one of Spawn's feet, even though he does have the blockier boot on the one side. Both of the feet are exactly the same. All mirror flipping, of course, one another, but they are exactly the same with same similar peg holes on the undersides. I'm going to move this to the side. Psst. For those that were hoping I was going to be branding that. The other thing that the figure comes included with is chains. And then chains are actually kind of cool. The chains themselves are actually made of pretty soft plastic. The plastic itself looks like it's been molded, in this case, in a very light silver. You can see them spikes on the end here that even Scorpion would be quite envious of. And you can also see it looks like he almost has like barbed wire on the ends of these. It does make for a little more of a pricklier encounter when you're actually trying to attach these onto the figure's body. It comes with two variations, one that's sort of more looped up like this, and one that has more of the extended look to it. In both cases, they do have these pegs. You can see right here, and he also has one right here. For all intents and purposes, you can actually attach this on two different places on the figure's body. The main one, the primary one, being on the back of Spawn's torso. You can see that there's holes. And we can go ahead then and take these pegs and you just plug them into the back here. It's not necessarily a rhyme or a reason. You don't have to have them in it specifically the same way as maybe you've seen online. I'm just going to attach these right now just so I can show you. They do get a little more coiled up with one another, but you simply just plug them into the back of his body. Not super hard, but it gives Spawn, again, a little bit more decorative look to the back of his body. It's almost like decorating a tree, except you're decorating a tree with barbed wire. There's that option available, or what you can also do as well is being the fact that it's using the same size diameter peg, you can also use those and attach them into his hands. And again, you were just going to open up the fingers, just pry the plastic away. This is the part that gets a little bit more pricklier because you're forcing into his hand. And it looks like you can almost be shooting out. Similar to Scorpion, you can be shooting out the chains. It actually probably works a little bit better, I think, to have the extended version. Again, we're just going to unplug this on the back of his body. Here we go. And then just you can plug it in the exact same way. One thing I would certainly say, though, when it comes to the back of his body, try to pull it closer to the peg. Because if you are having it, say, for example, just going to go back and have it the way I had it. If you have it like this, for example, and if you go and pull it by here and rather not pull it by the peg, there's the risk that this being softer plastic may actually rip the plastic. So you want to make sure that when you're removing it, as prickly as it may be, remove it actually closer to the peg. That way you're going to ensure that the plastic isn't going to break, and you're going to ensure as well that you're not going to be crying for the afternoon because you just broke Spawn's chain. Getting, though, a closer look at Spawn's face. One thing I really like about this figure is it does have a lot of the features that I really liked about the original Spawn, but smoothed out. It's kind of more of a comic-looking Spawn, while still having more realistic colors. The brighter reds are things you won't find here on this Spawn, still using that dark cranberry red that he would have had in his initial release. But again, just to bring in the original one, this one does still, well, this one still will be one that I'm going to display on the shelf with the rest of my Mortal Kombat 11 figures. But I kind of like this just to be a comic Spawn. This might be one I might just display with my other Spawn figures, because I really don't have one yet. I keep looking online for a good superior Spawn to have on display. I have the Throne Spawn, but of course the benefit of this one does have a full-sized cape. The Throne Spawn, unfortunately, didn't have a fully realized cape. Speaking of capes, though, were we just speaking of capes? We were. Speaking of capes, though, it happens to be the same cape as the one that they used for the original Mortal Kombat Spawn. Colors are a little bit more different, though. This would be more of a redder red, more of a burgundy red. And this one I could probably describe as more of a ketchup red. It's got a little bit more of an orange tint to it. But the molding is the same, the collar is the same, and even the bottom train of the cape is also exactly the same. The material that they use is fairly soft plastic. Not that you'd be able to bend this or anything like that, but at least it's a softer plastic that doesn't get in the way of things when it comes to the articulation of the figure. But to go then back to his head sculpt, I really, again, like the darker colors that they put around the eyes. The eyes already being green do glow, I feel, a little bit better than when we had a look at the original Spawn. I keep bringing this guy back in. Picking, of course, your poison as to which one you like a little bit more. This one, again, looks quite well for a more realistic-looking Spawn, but certainly when it comes to the shelf space, this guy's going to go rather nicely with the other Spawn figures that we've been looking at all this time. One thing also with this Spawn does bring back the red on the inside of the M. The other Spawn wouldn't have had that. It would have had just the outline. Well, we've already seen the figure. Chains also one thing about that. I keep bringing back the other Spawn figure. Between the chains, connecting, I should say, the two capes together, he actually does have the same chain as well. This one's more a little brighter silver, granted. This one's always a little bit more rusted, but it looks like they are using, in fact, the same cape and the same molding for the chain as well. Like the head sculpt, love the cape. Like, there's no real complaints I would give to the cape at all. The gauntlet is also something. The gauntlet is also something that looks like it's identical. The one thing, again, with this Spawn is that this also does have the little bracelet that he has around his bicep. The other Spawn does not have that. Has the pockets here to the side. The pockets are a little more shorter, not as long. Bring him back in. This Spawn would have had the longer pockets. This one would actually have fewer pockets, but each of the pockets are bigger in size. They're like the size of a bread sandwich. What other sandwiches are there? I guess there's lettuce sandwiches, but a regular slice of bread. But the size of a slice of bread. Nice silver done here for the front of his belt buckle. Of course, you got the chains that run all the way around this. The chains themselves meet up also at the back with a very similar skull on the back of his body as well. These chains, by the way, are loose, although they're attached in a couple of places here, so they're not free floating. You can't remove them or slide them down Spawn's waist, for example. But the colors are really quite good on this figure. There's nothing really I would have necessarily changed on the figure. And again, like the skin itself is really more smoother here. So it really conveys, I feel, a more closer to a comic Spawn than one that we would see in the Mortal Kombat game. Again, this is how Spawn would look. But I like the more simplistic approach that they went with when it came to his costume. It doesn't have, again, as much of the musculature and the texturing of his skin. For the articulation on this guy, it's going to be exactly the same as the other earlier looked at Spawn and the frequently making reappearances into this review Spawn. It's exactly the same, though. Head is on a ball joint, so it's going to rotate somewhat all the way around. It gets a little, though, hung up, more, I think, to the cape because he got the very long chin there. A great-looking head sculpt, though. Head does look down, and you can also have him looking up also as well. And it also can rock slightly back and forth as well. Shoulders, though, one thing I did notice about this figure is that the shoulders are a little loose on mine. I haven't really had the figure that long out of the packaging, and yet his arms are already loose. Not sure why. He does have also, again, that little cup socket joint. That's actually more there just to kind of conceal the joint, kind of give him that seamless look. Arms do technically rotate all the way around. The figure does have a bicep swivel. The figure does also possess a double hinge on the elbow. Yeah, good luck, though, trying to bend that. And the hands also rotate all the way around. The one that's encased inside the gauntlet and the one that isn't encased also rotate the exact same way. The figure has an upper torso ball joint. The figure also has a lower torso ball joint that's concealed just behind the chain belt. Legs, once again, seem to be unratcheted joints, but again on mine, a little on the more looser side. How's that for ASMR? You can take the legs, you can move them forward. You can take those same legs and move them also back. Mild swivel at the top of the thigh. The figure has a double hinge on the knee, which seems like the tightest thing on this figure's body is the knees. And then again, he has ankle pivot back and forth this way, and toe articulation as well. Sorry, what? Yes, he also has toe articulation. I had to speak up a little bit. I could barely hear you. He does also have toe articulation over here as well. This foot, for some strange reason, also is bizarrely loose. Either way, though, it's really nice looking spawn. This fills in what I wanted to find for just a classic looking spawn. I mean, it's not 100% classic colors. If you're looking for a spawn like that, you would probably want one that has brighter reds. This one still keeps the more darker color scheme that he has in the game. But again, while this one is going to be one I'm going to be displaying along with the other likes of the other figures we looked at, like Shao Kahn and like Scorpion, Sub-Zero. Recently, we looked at also the Batman Who Laughs, also from Mortal Kombat. This is the spawn. This is the spawn right here. I keep pointing. You should really never point at people. But this is the spawn I'm going to have display along with those figures. This spawn, on the other hand, is actually going to be one I'm going to be displaying with the likes of Violator, the one that I'm going to be displaying with, like, Plague, all the recently looked at spawns. This is the spawn that's going to go on the shelf along with those figures. While I did really like that other Mortal Kombat spawn we've looked at a couple of times already here on this channel, that one again is going to fit really nicely in with the other Mortal Kombat figures, but as already mentioned, I'm sure several times in this review, what I like about this spawn is it doesn't even have to be one that goes along with the other Mortal Kombat figures. If you were one that passed initially on that other Mortal Kombat spawn simply just because you thought his suit was, quote, too textury, this one actually fits better, I feel, into a collection space, whether you're collecting Mortal Kombat figures or not. The smoother look to his suit looks more akin to what we would see, obviously, him in the comics. The colors, though, are still darker, though, so you're not going to get that bright red cape that you would expect to see in the comics. Rather, instead, you're kind of getting that dark tomato ketchup red instead. This one goes also quite well with those additional chains that right now at least I've got attached on the back of his body. But being that they also were smart enough to use the same diameter size pegs, you can also have them as wielded weapons too, something that he can grip inside at least one of his hands. Sadly, his other hand was a close fist, so you wouldn't be able to obviously attach the chain into that hand. For right now, at least, I'm going to be displaying Spawn with the chains wrapped around his body. Again, like a really demonic Christmas tree. Great looking figure though. What do you guys though think of Shadow of Spawn? Is this a figure you've picked up? And if you have picked it up, is this one that you either then display with your Mortal Kombat 11 figures? Or is this one that you're displaying with your Spawn figures? Let me know also down below in the comments section. Certainly as well, if you enjoyed this video, hit it with a like. If you're loving the content you guys are seeing and do want to certainly stick around for more Spawn, that's a lot of S's, then make sure if you haven't already done so, that you hit the subscribe button down below and you turn on the bell notification. As always, guys, thanks for watching. See you guys next time.